Welcome to People I Used to Know podcast, a podcast where I interview people I used to know. My name's Allison and I'm your host. Our podcast team consists of Carrie Stock, who is our overly talented co-producer, audio engineer, camera op, and lighting designer, and Shelby Antel, who is our behind-the-scenes and headshot photographer. On today's podcast, we have Ariees Spangler, who is one of my good friends from middle school. However, we were friends in 6th and 7th grade. We lost touch in 8th grade. We didn't rekindle until 2019 when Ariees moved to New York City. She posted it on Instagram, and I DM'd her to ask her out for lunch. After that lunch, we've stayed in contact. I think we've learned a lot about what happened between those times, and also dabbled a little bit into what we thought about each other when we were younger, which inspired people I used to know. Ariees is our first guest on the podcast today. Currently, Ariees is a social media and influencer relationship manager at Acton Acre, which is based here in New York City. They are sold at Sephora and on their website. I'm sure plenty of other places. Ariees is also a part-time influencer. You can check her out on Instagram. If you follow her, you may want to move into Manhattan. But yeah, she's great. Okay, so thanks for joining us, Ariees. You are our first podcast member.
Amazing. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So to kick off the podcast today, I wanted to chat about our early friendships when we were younger, how you remember us being friends, and just hearing your side of the story.
Yeah, so I don't know if you really remember because I don't, but met in a class in 6th grade, I'm assuming, at some point.
I really can't remember. I'm sure it was something like super simple, but
yeah. Like I don't remember our first conversation. I just feel like we've always been friends. But no, we were really good friends. I feel like a lot of my like early memories of just like being in middle school were with you. I had something else to say and I forgot.
I feel like when we were in middle school, it was like you were always coming to my house. I mean, and I came to your house a few times, but you moved during middle school to like closer to everybody else.
Yeah.
And during our time, like in middle school, you and I hung out a lot in my neighborhood. You ended up dating two of my neighbors at the time in middle school.
Two. Oh yeah, I did.
Or maybe you
didn't. No, and I did not date. Well, we're not going to include that one.
We can cut that.
We can cut that. Names. But yeah, no, we didn't date. We were just best friends.
Best friends.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I like feel like we met in school, and then that summer, like between 6th and 7th grade, you were at my house a lot, and you became really close with a few of my neighbors. Like it was like us and the guys.
Yeah.
And you're still friends with a few of them today.
Yeah.
One of them
talk like occasionally, I suppose, but lost a little touch with them. But no, I do remember that. I remember always like we were like, oh, we'll go on a walk like around the neighborhood and like pass by their houses and just like being super just like girly about it.
Yeah. And before social media, when you could like post that you were always seeing somebody, it was like we would just be rogue and do wild 6th grader girl things. Yeah. And then I remember when we were really young, Ariees and I were adventurous, and I think I had a trampoline in my backyard, and we would like do random things like slip and slides and all these crazy things, but it was good. Yeah. The other thing I remember at that time in our age is we both traveled a lot for different sports. So you traveled for wrestling, I traveled for basketball.
Yeah.
And I remember, and you may not remember, but I just wanted to spark your memory to see. We were both in Grand Rapids on trips, and we were staying at different hotels, and I like spotted your mom from across the way, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's the Spangler family. And I was like there on a basketball tournament. You guys were there on a wrestling tournament.
Oh my gosh, I don't remember that.
Yeah. As I've been like diving into the research of this podcast and like sparking different memories, I've been thinking back on all of those times. And then trying to think of anything else that I want to talk about. But I think one thing that I remember being really young is that your mom was super involved in your life.
Yeah.
Like I have divorced parents. So for my parents, it was like they were both trying to juggle a lot, and your mom had you and then your stepdad, your dad, which was great. And I remember always hanging out. And can you tell us a little bit about like your relationship with your mom at that time, and like how, I mean, she's your mom, so maybe it wasn't fun to you, but to, I think the outside world, it seemed like you guys had a really fun relationship.
No, we have always had a fun relationship, and I consider myself so lucky because like I've never went through that phase where I was like, oh my God, my mom like like always push, you know, how like teenagers go through that, like pushing their parents away. My mom and I have always been like best friends. We've always had just like this open relationship where I can talk to her about anything. And I think that's what just like set me up for success like later in life, was just I felt like I could talk to her about literally everything, probably like way too much.
Yeah.
Too
Way
much.
too
Like
much.
I think back and I'm like, oh my gosh, like the stuff that I like spilled to her. But it was always like no judgment. She always just took it with such grace. And the way that she chose to like parent and like walk me through life was really just like something that I want to do with my kids in the future. But no, she's great. She's amazing. I can't like say, I mean, and you guys, I feel like always had a good relationship too. Whenever you were around. So she was always good with my friends.
I definitely feel like, because I've have this innate feeling, I don't know if that's the right term, but in my mind, ever since I was really little, that I'm older. So like the fact that your mom felt a little bit younger than other parents.
Yeah.
And then I was always like, oh, I'm old. I'm like the older one, which I'm not at all. I definitely was still that age. I felt like your mom and I would like communicate about some things that, you know, you, and we'll dive into this next, but you were trying to be a model when we were that age, and your mom would like help you out with that. And I wanted to be an actor. So I'd always talk to your mom and be like, oh, you're so great for taking Ariees to Chicago, or like trying to do these things. When I know it's hard to juggle. I've come from a family of 4, so it's like hard to juggle all the kids, and my parents did the best that they could. But I was always very like, from the outside looking at that and being like, oh, her mom's so good, like so supportive.
Yeah. But I do remember like looking back, I feel like you were always like had all of these goals. You wanted to like try all of these things. Like I remember being at your house one time and you were like, oh, I have to practice like guitar right now. Cause you wanted to play guitar and you were like so dead set on like learning that. And then your dad like had you like practice some sort of sport outside while I was there one day too. And it was always just like you were working towards something. And I always like looked up to you.
That's so funny because I like feel the opposite.
No, you always had something and you're like, I'm going to do this. And you like work towards it. Even at like such a young age, it was just super, I guess, inspiring to see. So,
oh, thank you.
Yeah.
This is why we created the podcast, though, because like I don't remember my childhood this way, but it's like hearing it from the outside perspective, these relationships that you have. Because I think that is slightly triggering to like me and my siblings, because my dad was always like practice.
Yeah.
And we're like, we don't want to practice anymore. Like we're done. Like my dad will also probably listen to this and be like, oh, you know, she gave up the guitar though. And it's like, well, Ariees said that I did practice that one day, that one time. So hold me accountable. No, that's so interesting to hear. And I definitely think, you know, it is so unique having these friendships, like when you're at such a young age and then pulling them further into adulthood. You're one of the only people I communicate with that I've stayed in touch with at that time. And as people get to know and hear stories about my relationships on podcast, I was talking to you at lunch probably like a year ago now, I think. And I touched on a point of, I said, was I weird in high school? Like, what did you say? And something similar. And what you ended up saying was, no, I think everybody just thought you like wanted to leave and then you left, and that made sense. And I was like, oh yeah, I always did want to leave. And it like makes sense that people thought I wanted to leave. So
yeah, I think you just wanted to get that like past that phase, I suppose.
Like high school?
Like you were like always looking so far ahead. You're like, I want to do this. Like I want to move here. I want to get this out of life. And yeah, you did. You graduated a year early.
Yeah, I graduated high school a year early, moved to Los Angeles. I don't talk about that often to people in my life, but it'll definitely come out across the span of these episodes. And it will, so it'll come across the span of these episodes about the different portions of what I've done since I graduated high school, where I moved to LA. So my goal in probably middle school into high school was that I wanted to be an actor. I wanted to move to LA. And so I graduated high school a year earlier and ended up doing that. I do want to go back real quick and just hear your experience and get your opinion on this. But when we were younger, one thing that brought us together is the fact that I was like, I'm going to Hollywood. And you were into modeling, you were into pageants and that thing, those types of activities. And so one of the models that was super big at the time was Daphne. And I remember being like, oh, you could do it. Like, you're so good. Do you ever think back on that time and have any regrets of not pushing that further, or taking a different path at that time? I know we were so young, but just
Yeah.
reflecting back.
No, I actually do have a lot of thoughts about this, because my mom was so supportive towards that goal. And like you said, she took me to Chicago to open castings. I had callbacks from like Ford Models, like IMG, like all of the bigger agencies, and just like really great opportunities at a young age to keep in contact with these agencies, get these jobs. Um, you know me in middle school, I was so quiet and
Hmm.
so just like shy, you know.
Yeah.
And so like yeah, I went and I did those things and it was like way out of my comfort zone. And then we got back and my mom obviously like didn't want to push me into anything, so she like always gave me the choice. She's like, "Do you like are you sure you want to do
Hmm.
this? Like is this something that you want to do? Am I making you do it?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah, yeah." But then I like go back into like my little comfort zone of like our little small town in
Hmm.
Michigan and I'm like, "No, like I'm comfortable here." Like we kept up with like sending in measurements just like as I grew, sending in new digitals too, just throughout the next like year or two, I think. But eventually dropped off. I like got so consumed with like sports in high school, and just ended up not pursuing it. But I do regret that. I think she had given me like such a great opportunity to pursue that, and I just was so shy at the time.
I
And
I
like looking
also
back, I'm like, girl, like why were you shy? Like, you know, like
Yeah,
just do it.
100%. But I think that it's also like from an outside's perspective, it's like looking back and I sort of envy your ability to not push further into those industries, but we also didn't see anybody in them. Like I think
Yeah.
I mean, we didn't really have, unless you came across anybody that was striving to make these accomplishments that we were diving into or trying to attempt. So it was like we were the anomaly,
Yeah.
and it was comforting, like to be back home. And for me, it was, I think, the opposite. Like I like had so much drive
Yeah.
to be like, okay, no, I don't want to be here. I want to have those opportunities. But sometimes I reflect back and I have a regret of just not sitting in childhood longer
Yeah.
and like allowing myself to have the fun times or the relationships that I could build, that would be like have the longevity of them.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Okay, so I guess we're gonna jump ahead quickly because I think this is a good segue into your influencer standing and
Yeah.
how that came across in adulthood and how you got started and what really inspired you to take that route.
Yeah. So you know me, like I've always been into like photography, like creating content, just that really creative like space in my life. And the one way I did do that was through photography. And my Instagram has always been like, oh, I have to take like the perfect photo. Like I have to have an aesthetic feed. Like even back when it first launched and we were like in
Mm-hmm.
middle school or high school or whenever that was, it was always so like cohesive and thought out and curated. But it wasn't until I moved to New York that I was like, oh, like there's so many things to like post about now. Like I'm
Mm-hmm.
outside of like this little small town in Michigan. Like now it's like things that
Every time
like
you're
I
out to
saw,
eat,
yeah, I
yeah.
saw on Pinterest or Tumblr. Now I was like in an opportunity, like had the opportunity to like take that content myself. Um, so at first it was like really just like lifestyle ish. Like I was still just like not really posting as an influencer, but like posting stuff in a really curated manner. Um, and then it wasn't until I got laid off actually during the pandemic that I was like, you know, like I'm just going to dive into this. Like I have so much free time. Like let's just dive into
Mm-hmm.
this a little more. And so I started posting just like more portraits, more just content with brands and tagging them. And then started like getting emails from brands, just like sending me free stuff. And at that point, I thought that was so cool, just like the
Yeah.
ability to like get free stuff. So I was like accepting anything and everything that came my way, creating content with it, and was posting so consistently just throughout the pandemic. And I was growing slowly then. It wasn't really until I think like 2 years ago when Reels became like a really big thing. I was able to create like a different type of content outside of like the photography part of it. So
and once you see Arie's Instagram, you'll realize that, you know, it's not the most, like this podcast here is an anomaly for her. It's not the most of personal in where you're getting an inside look inside of her life. It's very much so what she's discussing about, like the curation and her photography and focusing on the art of it. So just to give some background of why Reels was so important to Aries's growth, is like the images that she was able to put into these videos and curate quick turnaround. But
yeah, it was like I was walking around the city and everything is content. So you're just like capturing video and photo of literally everything. And people love, like, they came out with a template feature. Like, people save the content because of the templates, because of the song. So it was really fun for me to create, and people really liked seeing it, used it as inspiration. Now they'll use like my templates, and you can go in and there's like thousands of people that have used like the template that I created with the song, and you can like see their version of it, which is like really cool to me.
Yeah, I didn't even know that was a thing. So that's pretty neat.
Yeah, no, it's really cool to see. Just like I'm like sitting on my couch and I like put together a video with some content that I took like on my walk, and then people like see it and recreate it. It's really cool.
Yeah, that's cool. Well, thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
I was actually going to bring up a point, but I think you sort of touched on it. Is, did you know how much money could be in being an influencer before you started doing your posting and your curation?
No. I think I had no idea. And honestly, like when I first started doing it in 2020, I don't think the industry really knew either. It was still very much early on, and there were like paid partnership opportunities coming my way. I think my first paid partnership, they like asked me for my budget or something. I had no idea what to say. They're like, okay, like a carousel post of like 4 photos and then like a set of stories. And I was like, oh my gosh, I have like 10K followers and I'm getting paid to post. So I charged $75.
That's nothing. If you know the industry, that's like me with my like 500 friend followers getting paid to post.
No, seriously. Like I've paid, like as an influencer manager now, paid so much more for people like with 1,000 followers. It's so just like funny to look back on. And I see John looking at me right now, and he is always pushing me to charge more. And I'm actually at a point now to where I will charge like what, like the industry standard, like, you know, something that's fair for both sides. But
I'm gonna pause you for a second. For the audience, John is Aries's fiance. He's sitting here in their room. Yeah, no worries. And I am like John. I will push anybody to charge their worth. I think it's important to stay at industry standard, not necessarily for any other reason beside, I think it's just like you are putting in the work, you are putting in the effort, you already put in the time to build your audience.
Yeah.
So it's just really neat to see that.
Yeah.
Yeah. A big shout out to our headshot photographer on set here today, Shelby Antel. You can follow her at Shelby Elaine Photos on Instagram. Reach out for any corporate, personal, or acting headshots. Talking industry standards and rates, you are now, I ask you so many questions about when it comes to like influencer marketing, because you are my only friend. Well, I have one other friend, but you are my only friend who does it professionally on both ends. So being like in-house, how has that changed your perspective on being an influencer yourself while seeing other people that you're managing from the brand side of their influencer relationships?
It's been so helpful on both ends, honestly. Just one, for my career, like being an influencer myself going into it, just like knew kind of how like I preferred brands to talk to me, to like gift product, to just like, sorry.
No, I was going to ask, what is like I guess to make it a little less formal, but like what is the favorite product you've ever been gifted? Like what's the biggest brand that you were able to receive?
What is the biggest brand?
You used to work with like Dr. Dennis Strart, right?
Dr. Dennis Gross.
Gross.
That was always gifting. I love their products though. Say Beauty, I think is one of my like absolute favorite brands to have a relationship with because their PR mailers are insane. Their campaigns insane.
They're actually doing a market this weekend in New York.
Oh.
Which they won't hear this, but that's up. You could go tomorrow.
Oh, their pop-up?
Their pop-up, yeah.
Yeah. Their little cafe say or something. Yeah. No, they're killing it all around with like all of their marketing. But no, they're one of my favorite brands to partner with. Love you, Say. What is the biggest? I don't know.
Okay,
I've
think
gotten
about
like
it.
really nice purse bags from
Freya, New York? Is that how you say it?
Freya.
Poland.
Yeah.
French.
Oh, love that brand. I actually have 4 handbags from them. They're so great.
They're so great. They have
Every
a store
time I'm
in
on the
Soho.
street too, I get like a compliment
Yeah.
or like someone's asked me where my bags
I
from.
feel like my one friend got gifted one from her boyfriend like I think like 2 or 3 years ago, and ever since then they like blown up in America.
Yeah.
I'm gonna switch topics a bit just so we have enough time to discuss it. But the next thing I want to talk to you about is our because you are an anomaly where I have caught up with you, and I know what you've been doing for the last 4 or 5 years. But I want to go back and reflect on the years that we weren't connected.
Yeah.
And just like hear your thought process of what that was like for you. What is your biggest learnings? What is something I should know about you that maybe I didn't learn from when we were apart?
That's a really good question. One thing I will say, you say we like disconnected and like didn't reconnect till 2019, but I feel like there was always like some sort of just like little connection still there. I remember, I don't know, I mean, you probably do remember, but like you left after graduation like a year early.
Oh, and I came to your open house.
And no, you always just like pop up in the most random ways and like the best ways. And I will like, and I like love you for that. Like you've always been like one of my just like a person that I can always count on, you know? So no, you came back for my open house. You stayed at the open house the entire time. Everyone left. You were the last person there. You helped clean up, and then I got changed. I'm pretty sure you have like a picture with my sister or something in my garage. I don't know. And then we went to other people's open houses together.
Oh my gosh.
And
I don't remember the latter, but I definitely remember like showing up and staying.
Yeah, no, you showed up, you stayed, you helped clean, we got changed, and we went to other people's open houses. So it's like we were disconnected, but like when we like had our little moments of reconnection, like it was always like we hadn't stopped talking for a while. There was that really big gap between like our last time talking, I think, and then me moving to New York. But there was also a time during college you like wanted to start a magazine.
Oh my gosh. So I was on Facebook the other day,
yes,
and I have this magazine called Bum Magazine, and I just was like obsessed with starting print. And as we know, print is dying and print is coming back. It's a little bit of both right now. I think like the artistic way of print is like coming back. But
Yeah.
I was wondering because I was like, why is Ariees on Bum Magazine? Like,
Yeah.
So go on because I do not remember this.
No, you like reached out to me so randomly. You were like, I'm starting this magazine. You like wanted me to be a part of like some of the, I think just like the photography for it or something. You're like, you can model. And you've always like backed me through that. Like
I will never let Ariees forget that she wanted to model. Like I literally bring it up all the time.
Also,
I'm like,
just
"Are you
like
modeling?"
going back
No.
to that, like the little Chicago trip. I remember like, and this is going back, but like in middle school, you would always like be like, did you know that Ariees went to Chicago? Did you know she's a model? Like to like people we were just meeting. Cause you know how like everyone came together from elementary schools and whatnot.
I always always tell people, I'm like, if you know me, you know I will be your cheerleader.
Yeah,
like,
my biggest hype
100%.
woman. Yeah. No, but you did reach out about that magazine, put me in like an album where you were dropping inspo.
And then it didn't come to life.
And then it didn't come to life, but that's okay because
Everybody stay tuned. Bum Magazine 2030.
There we go.
You hear it here, 6 years.
No, so there were always those just like little reconnections, like randomly.
I also have a photo of us. I was going through trying to like find photos of us that we've like been together in the last. And I know that in high school we like still, because our school is very small. I think we graduated with like the mid 200s.
Yeah.
So it's hard not to see each other, or, you know, be friendly.
Yeah.
But I think when we were younger, I have lots of photos of just us. And then like in high school, there's photos
like
of us
group
like in the
photos.
group. There's
Yeah.
like 25 girls, which I was always like a one-on-one person. I still am. But like 25 girls, and it's like Ariees and I are like on the other corners. But yeah, that's so funny. I did remember the open house. I didn't like remember going to other people's open house. I do remember popping around a lot when we were younger. I like am not the best at staying in contact with people. I've learned to try to do that a lot more. But I would just like show up and I'd be like, I'm in town. What's going on? I'm coming. I'm visiting. What is everyone doing? So
Yeah.
Okay, but for you personally.
Oh yeah. What has, or during that time?
Like, what do you think is your biggest learning from that time?
I think that was just like a really rough time, to be super transparent. Like the time that we weren't talking, and I think we've probably like went into a lot of this like in our chats at lunch and stuff, but it was a really hard time, but like great time in my life. I met John. But I was also just like finishing up college. I didn't really know what like I wanted to do. So I was a psychology major for most of my time in college, and like midway through decided, because a professor mentioned I'd be great at marketing, decided that I was going to do marketing. So here we are.
They go hand in hand. So
but no, switched to that, got an internship in downtown Flint, which I think we've probably talked about.
That's where
I met John.
John.
Yes. Yeah. But no, after that, I was at the smaller marketing agency, and not a lot happened, to be honest, during that time. I was kind of just like enjoying life, like kind of cruising through. I was in Ann Arbor a lot with John, kind of getting that bigger college experience, I suppose, because like, as you know, I stayed home for college.
And for people who have background, I live in Ann Arbor now, and I feel like it's like the smallest micro scale of New York. Like it like brings life, and it is a college town, but at the same time, it has a lot of things that are outside of it. So you got like a little dabble into a different lifestyle than we grew up with.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But no, like not much, I suppose, happened during that time. John graduated and he had a job lined up, and that's why we ended up in New York. But yeah, it was definitely just like a big time for growth, I suppose, but like not anywhere near as notable of growth as I've seen since moving to the city.
Yeah. And I remember you and I touched on probably a year or so after we reconnected, about how, because I brought up Chicago again with the models, but I asked like if you ever expected to move somewhere like New York City, and you were like, you would have been comfortable staying in Michigan if that's what your life had in store for you.
Yeah.
But like now I'll let you put words into it because I don't want to misspeak, but
yeah, no, I guess like I never really had like a plan, but I knew that I didn't want to stay like in our little small town in Michigan for my whole life. Like I knew I always wanted to end up somewhere else, and I always thought, I was like, I'm gonna move to Chicago, like because that was like the biggest city, you know, like close to us. So I was like, I will figure it out, like I'm gonna make it to Chicago. Every time I went and visited, I was like obsessed. So I loved the big city vibe, like always. And just being somewhere a little bit more lively with more things to do, more things to experience. But I was also just like so comfortable with my friends, being close to my family, with the job that I had. So like there was a part of me that, yeah, sure, like I could have stayed, but also just like I kind of knew deep down that like I just wanted more, you know?
Yeah. Literally the burning sensation in my body all the time.
Yeah. No, but it's so crazy how life worked out, because like I said, I met John. He was so dead set on moving to the city, and I was so skeptical at first. I was like, I don't think I can do it. Like, I think that's just like way too big for me. And he knows how worried I was about that. But we did it. And we're here.
You're here. You're thriving.
And we're thriving. You're
getting married soon.
We are getting married soon.
Yay. We don't have any sponsors for this podcast episode, but I'd love to tell you about Panera Sip Club. I'm an avid Panera Sip Club member. If you ever want to become a beverage queen, you can always join Panera Sip Club. I can go to Panera every 2 hours and get a drink, a different drink. I also can go to Panera and just get a drink and not actually think about paying anything because it's a monthly fee. Girl money. So if you want to join me, you can always join Panera Sip Club. You can hang out with me at Panera. We can eat the bagels together and it'll be a great time. So shout out to Panera. If you'd like to sponsor People I Used to Know, you can reach out to peopleiused-to-know-podcast@gmail.com. Do you have any like key memories from high school of like big moments or anything that like you sparked that you like to reflect on or maybe just like think about a lot? I know the year after I left was a bit tough for everyone there, but like prior, like junior, sophomore, freshman year?
No, I think like high school, like everyone was a bit just like navigating like where you belong in terms of like friend groups. Like
I actually have one. It just came to me.
oh, tell me.
Okay, so Powerpuff football?
Oh,
Is that what it's called? Powder Puff?
Powder Puff.
Powder
Powder
Puff. Okay, so Powder Puff football.
Yes.
My junior year, I was able to play, and I played on the junior year team. But the seniors of our year in our class did a lot of sports together growing up because we all did like travel athletics. But we were good. I think we won. I could be wrong, but I think we won. And I honestly think it's because of us, like you and me.
The
like,
juniors?
The juniors. Like you were so fast. And I think I was like so vicious. And we had Karina, who was like killer.
Like all the sports girls.
We had all the sports girls. And the older team, I think, was just not as fast.
Yeah.
Like we were so fast. And now I'm like flashing back and you're like your little buns and the white t-shirt.
Well, also, do you remember in like middle school, I wanted to do Powder Puffs so bad. And I was like, I can't believe I have to wait until like junior year. And my mom's like, well, why don't we just do it now?
We literally did it, didn't we?
My mom started a little Powder Puff league for like 7th and 8th graders because Kristen, my friend, because her and I, we were like, we want to play Powder Puff. And this happened at like a wrestling tournament or something. And my mom's like, let's do it. And
yeah, your mom was wild.
Yeah, she was so wild.
She is also a number one cheerleader.
Number one cheerleader. Also will do like anything and everything that she wants to do, anything and everything that we want, like she'll make it happen.
That's crazy. I'm like now reflecting back. I don't know if I played with you guys, but I have like a vivid memory right now of a practice.
Yeah.
That I think
No, I definitely remember you like at a practice.
I played every
because it was at Elms
it was very
Park.
Difficult.
No, I know because you ended up playing. Didn't you do lacrosse one season?
I did. Yeah. And I got pulled up to varsity. And again, Ariees is very fast. So I played lacrosse. I quit soccer my junior year and I played lacrosse. And it was brutal. I killed the JV team, like, because it was my first year I played down. Yeah. And I killed it. I was like number one. And then you guys went to districts, I think, and they pulled me up and I could not keep up. Like these girls like were insane. It was wild.
Oh, the districts game was
no you like you individually. You were like the best on the team. Like you were so fast, so strong.
Lacrosse was my life.
Yeah,
at that time.
At the time, flag football and lacrosse.
Yeah.
Oh no, that's so good. Yeah, I actually my family jokes about it a lot because I played softball, soccer, basketball, volleyball, lacrosse.
You did
I ran cross
everything.
country. I tried swimming. I quit. For all of you out there, a confession is that I quit because I'm lazy, but I told everybody it was because I have asthma. And then I did cheerleading in elementary school. So like I tried everything. And then flag football. I thought about doing football. I did track. So yeah, all of them. But lacrosse was like a fun one to do. And I wasn't very good. So that's also a challenge.
I remember you being very good.
On JV.
No.
On JV. It's okay. It's okay. I know.
No, I really remember you being good.
Okay.
Let's just keep it at that memory.
Keep it. I was good. Okay. Yeah, that memory.
I'm curious about the process of staying connected to people through social media and how maintaining friendships has gotten so difficult.
Yeah. I actually think you and I are probably a decent group to talk about that because although you are on social media a lot, I know yours is very curated. Mm-hmm. So up until the time I think, like I saw you post on Instagram, but I knew it was curated. Like you were getting into like different types of photography and everything. Mm-hmm. And until I saw you move to New York, I like didn't reach out. But now I think, we have rekindled and we've stayed in touch. And so I can see, but Ariees recently got engaged and I didn't know for like 3 months because.
Which that is so on me because we were just talking about it like
No, I
right
know.
before, and I think like in that moment, like trying to remember like everyone to tell was just like, and
Well,
I didn't
I
even
was-
post about it until like a month later.
No,
to
but
be
I was gonna
honest,
say
like,
for social media wise, because
Oh,
that's
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
question, is like it's nothing to do with you personally. But like most of the time I think, you know, people post their life moments on social media
yes.
and you like see on social media that like they have these big life moments.
Yeah.
Like two of my friends just got married, but I'm not close enough and they had very intimate weddings, but they just got married. And the only reason I remember they were getting married is because it's on social media.
Yeah.
But like for you, you curate your social media. So I'm like always looking to like,
Yeah.
but I'm never like looking for like something past that, you know?
Yeah.
Not all the time, but like a lot of the time I'm like, she's so good. Like, or I'll be like, love this.
Yeah.
And I just missed that post.
No, I
And-
did post about it a month late. And honestly, like the funny thing about me, like, yes, I post all the time on social media, but I also just like don't post everything on social media.
Yeah.
Like I don't like I like posting my work and like the things that I put together, but like some of my more just like personal life moments, I'm like, not everyone needs to see it right when it happens. Like I want that month. Like I kind of just so we got engaged like the 1st of October, and I think I posted our engagement post
the
like
end of October.
October 28th or
Yeah.
something. Like I wanted just like a month to like soak it all up between John and I, have that moment with like our family, our friends, and just like,
And I think you're like a good example of and like butting into not being as individual on social media, because you are essentially a brand of yourself when
Yeah.
you're posting. And so I think when you connect with somebody who, you know, uses social media as like that's their friend communication and you can post and see what people do, which I see a lot.
yeah,
For us it's more so like, at least for me too, I like post a lot later than usual. Like
Yeah.
if I'm in New York, I'll post I'm in New York, but like I bought a house in June and I like didn't post it till I think December or January.
yeah.
And so like those who
Sorry.
no, you're good. Those who like knew I bought a house, like I told or I talked about it or they
Yeah.
found it through the grapevine, but it wasn't like I like went and posted it. So I think we are anomalies when it comes to like posting a lot about life and staying in touch and like keeping in contact. But at the same time, it's like I was scrolling your Instagram one day just randomly and
Yeah.
was like, oh my gosh. And I literally brought it up to my sister who knows you and follows you and was like, you didn't know? And I was like, you didn't tell me? Like, why not? Like, why
Yeah.
didn't you tell me? And I have other friends too that have like brands and things on social media. So it's like harder to stay in touch. But I think for us, like what keeps our friendship good is like every time I'm in New York, I have availability, I
Yeah.
like reach out and you try and find to make time. And
Yeah,
like
yeah.
we will literally work into like a 45-minute lunch of like, she works in my old office building that I still freelance with. So I like be in the office, but I'm like, are you there? And she's like, no, not today. And I was like, are you there Thursday? And she's like, yeah. And I was like, can we do lunch on Thursday? And then she's like, what time? I'm like, 1 p.m. And then she's like, I can do 2 p.m. I'm like, okay, I'm going to do 2 p.m. And then like, we will literally make time.
Like,
So
yeah.
I think adult friendships are hard when it comes to that because you see the memes all the time about like scheduling. Like if you're going to see somebody, it'll be 4 months away.
Yeah.
I plan like 2 weeks in advance. So like for a lot of people in my life, they have to alter their schedules or find a little gap. And so I feel like you're willing to do that from your side. And it's just so simple as like reaching out and being like, hey, I have this hour available. Can you see me?
Yeah. And I do always appreciate you reaching out when you're here because I feel like I don't always know that you're in town. And I feel bad that I'm like not able to be like, hey, like want to go do this, but you are like bopping around all the time.
You
so.
cannot find me unless you know where I am. Like I have a calendar that some of my friends follow and I'm
Yeah.
not the best at keeping up with it. But I think, you know, a lot about the way that I keep my friendships and the way that I can like stay in touch with people. And also, this is learned. The reason that like people I used to know is because until probably 26, I'm 29 now, but until 26, I did not know how to keep friendships. Like I lost friendships. Like Carrie, who's behind the board, and I have been friends for a decade now. And like we used to see each other maybe once a year and we probably lived 20 minutes from each other. And it was because I would just think about seeing people and I wouldn't, you know, reach out to them. I would like be like, oh, I should reach out to Ariees. But now I'm like, I'll force my brain to be like, no, just text them. If they're available,
Yeah.
they're available. If they're not, they're not. And like, I think that's a big portion of like people I used to know is like, I want to know what these people are doing. Not
Yeah.
everybody is like a friendship that I want to rekindle or, you know, went off for a certain reason. I think it's more so of like, we have lost touch, and social media does keep people so involved in each other's lives, but you don't see behind the lens. Like what we were talking about, like a lot of our lives is behind any wall, any social post, any like public facing thing.
Yeah.
I'm boring most of the time, but people do not think that. People are always like, she's traveling, she's jet setting. Like I was in DC at a conference. Like I literally work. I sit in the back room and I do nothing. Like it's my life is exciting in a lot of people's eyes, and I won't take away that I do very cool things. But like at the same time, like I do what you do in an everyday. I just travel to do it, you know?
Yeah.
So it's like a very different. And yeah. But social media is like such a good way to stay connected and share big life moments. But I think at the same time, it's like I met an influencer the other day who I don't know well, but I was like, met her, didn't realize she was an influencer, ended up looking her up afterward. But she was like, oh, you can follow my personal account. And so I like followed her personal account. And she was like, but just a warning, I like have a personality on my social media. So like, that's not me. And so it's like, you always have to take also with the way you're viewing people is like, you are not seeing who that person actually is. And I think I'm a big fan of Emma Chamberlain. And I was listening to your podcast the other day where she was saying like, people don't see my mental breakdowns. Like she is her when she shows up, and she's like very clear about like, she doesn't try and put on a persona or a character, but like you don't see every moment of somebody's life. So I think social media is only so good at keeping up, and you can like think that you're friends with somebody or that you're staying in contact with somebody, you know what they're doing, but then you don't. Like you really don't until you sit down and talk to them and like hear them out and hear their side of things.
Yeah, totally.
But yeah, that's why we have this podcast, is to like hear people and stay in touch. And as you learned today, Ariees and I were really good friends. We spent probably like every other day together for a couple of years. And then we lost touch, but we have so many memories that we've shared. And I think that's really important to keep in mind. And now we can relive those memories, rekindle the past, but at the same time still grow together. So thank you for coming.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for tuning into this week's People I Used to Know podcast. You can check us out on Instagram and TikTok at People I Used to Know podcast. If you'd like to sponsor People I Used to Know, you can reach out to peopleiused-to-know-podcast@gmail.com. This podcast is brought to you by ADWM Productions, a boutique event agency that can help you with any of your event needs.